Hey there, curious minds. Welcome to the channel. Lady Teal's Curios has been on hiatus for a while with a few spurts of activity here and there, and I'm happy to say I'm finally ready to get this off the ground. So if you like high strange, legends and lore, spooky travel, and of course, Halloween, this is the place for you. In the background, you'll see my office. I'm hoping to do some videos as I start decorating it, so before and after type videos. We'll also get into like how-tos and DIYs with prop making and that sort of thing. And of course, my favorite, travel and the legends and lore behind it. I have a few exciting travel plans coming up. It is October, so I thought this was the perfect time of year to start really getting in this spooky rhythm. Later this month, actually in 21 days, I have a trip planned to Orlando, Florida. I will be attending the epic Halloween Horror Nights. So we'll go through the haunted houses, then the scare zones. I should probably put my phone on Do Not Disturb. We'll go through the haunted houses, then the scare zones, and as a bonus, I also picked a couple movies that will go with the Nightmare Fuel show. I should mention, my bachelor's is in digital cinematography and my master's is in dark tourism journalism. So this is kind of my jam. I love talking about this kind of stuff. So let's break it down. Okay, for haunted houses, A Quiet Place. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I had not seen these movies until this month, and I still haven't seen the one that the house will be based on, A Quiet Place Day One. It just came out this year, and it's a prequel that's going to take us back to the initial alien invasion. Now, I just watched the first two, and oh, they are amazing. Great cinematography, great use of sound, or rather lack thereof. But I have a feeling, because in the trailer for A Quiet Place Day One, there is a lot more sound happening. There's like explosions and aliens are coming in, and there's a lot of running and ruckus and chaos. And so I have a feeling a lot of that chaotic nature will be portrayed in the house. Again, haven't seen the film yet. I'm hoping to in the next week or so. So I might update what I think the house will have in it based on after I see the movie. But my must watch for this is, of course, A Quiet Place Day One. If you haven't seen the other Quiet Place movies, definitely watch those first because those are amazing. The original came out in 2018. Okay, so next up we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And this is actually out on Netflix right now. It brings a Frozen twist to the classic Ghostbuster adventure. Now, if you have extra time and you want to catch up, you can definitely watch all of the old Ghostbuster movies. And of course, the classic always gets me, and I just love 80s movies. So Ghostbusters, the original, is probably one that I watch like every year or so anyways. So next up is Insidious the Further. Now, I have not seen any of the Insidious movies. I am actually catching up on a lot of horror movies because when I was younger, I was not really allowed to watch a lot of those movies. And now as I'm older, I'm catching up on a lot of these classics. So Insidious has been around since 2010, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies out. If you want to get into the Insidious lore, you'll watch Insidious Chapter 2, Chapter 3, The Last Key, and The Red Door. And basically, this house is going to explore the Further, which is an alternate dimension filled with spirits and demonic entities. Sounds like a lot of fun. So I am at least going to watch the first one. That way I can kind of understand like what the Further is and what the style and the theming might be like. I honestly have no idea what the house is going to look like because I have not seen those movies at all. So this is kind of one that's like a mystery for me. Next up is Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines, and this is an all-female cast. It's basically, well, I'll just read the little tagline for the house. It says, "Get caught in an epic battle as Saskia Van Helsing and the Bride of Frankenstein go up against Dracula's daughter and her monstrous mavens." I love anything Universal Monsters, the classic monsters. I'm like actually wearing a Universal Monsters shirt right now. I love it. I've got a Bride of Frankenstein bust sitting over here in the corner that I'm sure I'll show y'all one day when we do one of these decorating videos. For my must-watch movies for this house, I have Dracula's Daughter. These are all older movies, like from the 1930s and 40s, okay? So Dracula's Daughter, Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, She-Wolf of London, and as a bonus, The Invisible Woman. Because The Invisible Man is a classic Universal monster, but we don't really get to see too much of The Invisible Woman, and that was a film in the 1940s where it's a little more lighthearted, but I love that there's an invisible woman. So, yeah, those would be my picks for that house. And you'll get introduced to some of the characters like Dracula's daughter. I'm totally gonna mispronounce this. Namun Anksu Namun. Yeah, I don't know. However you pronounce it. And She-Wolf of London, classic. So if you like any of those old styles cinematic movies, then definitely those four with the bonus of The Invisible Woman. Okay, we are up to Monstruos, the monsters of Latin America. Horrible accents. I don't even know why I tried to do that. Me looking up how to pronounce these legends here. Should have done that beforehand. So for the Monsters of Latin America house, there's 3 legends we'll be exploring. Tlahuelpuchi, La Lechuza, and El Silbón. And there's 3 movies that kind of explore these legends. I have them on my watch list because when I used to do Lady Teal's Curios, I would cover a lot of legends and lore, and I absolutely love learning legends from other cultures and have not watched any of these movies. So I want to be a little more aware of what the legends are about when I go into the houses so I can appreciate some of the imagery and the artistry going forward. And the movies that I picked out for this were Kilometro 31, and this explores similar folklore to that of Tlahuelpuchi. It's got some high strange and supernatural elements in it. And then The Owl Witch, it's about a shape-shifting witch. Shape-shifting... I cannot talk today. Shape-shifting witch. And then El Silbón Origines, which is based on that legend. I did put an extra credit of La Llorona. While it's not directly related to the haunted house as far as I know, it is a great Latin America horror folklore. That brings us to Slaughter Cinema 2. This is... I'm so excited for this. It is taking place at the Cary Drive-In, and it's going to have grindhouse gore, camp, and just gruesome cult classic style movies. This one is great. So the movies that I picked out for this one are The Chopping Mall, Terror Vision, The Blob, Planet Terror, and Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Now, these are just my picks. Again, I don't know what they're going to put in the Cary Drive-In for Slaughter Cinema 2, but I love some good grindhouse and campy features, and I think these kind of like summarize that. And they're just a lot of fun to watch because it's B-movie horror with, you know, killer robots, 2 invading aliens, and monstrous blobs. What else could you ask for? Now we move on to the museum, Deadly Exhibits. The tagline for this one is, "A folklore museum's newest exhibit, the Rotting Stone, has released an evil spirit that decays everything. and it's coming for you. So I'm thinking night at the museum, because like the exhibits are coming to life at nighttime. But that's a little lighthearted and friendly. So then I thought I would pair that with Velvet Buzzsaw. And this is where basically art turns deadly. And I'm not going to tell you the twist at the end, but I think between these two, we'll get a little inspiration for this house, which I am very excited for because I love like dark academia and museums and artifacts and all of that kind of stuff. And I almost put The Mummy in here, but I feel like The Mummy is something that you can watch anytime you go down to Universal, because they literally have the Mummy ride at both parks. Moving on to Major Sweets Candy Factory here. This one is for all of you with a sweet tooth. I have a sweet tooth. I even have my wine gums and M&Ms here. So this house, I'm sure, is going to have some spooky ass candy in it. And to get prepped for this house, I had to pick Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory as one of my movies, because Willy Wonka is kind of creepy. Like, I know those movies are fun and whimsical and dreamy and whatever. There's that childlike wonder, but like Willy Wonka is kind of weird and creepy in its own right. So I put that on there. And then I also put The Stuff, which is basically a dessert starts turning people into mindless zombies. So I think those two are perfect. I know a lot of people are excited for this next house, which is Goblin's Feast. Enter a goblin village where a feast is being prepared for goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, and witches. And you're the main course. So I put The Labyrinth for this one. I've seen The Labyrinth before. I'm sure many of you have too. I know it's not necessarily it's probably not going to match like the theming totally, but when I saw the caption or the tagline for this house, it just definitely reminded me of the movie because of all of the creatures, the mind-bending landscapes, and there is like a macabre sense to The Labyrinth as well. So that's what I put as my choice, what I'm going to watch to kind of like get excited for Goblin's Feast. And I would love to know what other movies for that kind of theming you would watch, because I was kind of having a hard time coming up with some. But the one that popped into my mind straight away was Labyrinth. Triplets of Terror. So the tagline for this one is, you're invited to the Barmy Triplets birthday celebration, but their kind of party involves recreating the murders of their entire family. Now, just from the image of this one, it reminds me of The Purge a little bit, but there's a whole Blumhouse scare zone. So I put The Purge with the scare zone, which will go into the scare zones and the movies that you could watch to get amped up for those later. I decided for this one, I don't know why, I will get better at this. I'm kind of nervous right now because it's like the first time I'm actually sitting down to make a video like this. So I put The Orphan and The Shining for this one. The Shining has the twins in it. So Triplets of Terror kind of reminded me of the twins in The Shining. But The Shining is also just like a really classic horror film that does kind of dissect the dichotomy of family. And Triplets of Terror is all about family, it sounds like. So I thought that was a good pick for that one. And then Orphan is about a seemingly innocent child with a deadly secret, of course. So those are the two movies that I'll be prepping for Triplets of Terror with. Would absolutely love to hear what you are going to be watching. Again, I know like the imagery here might not exactly match The Orphan and The Shining, but those are the two that I thought of. So we're going with that. And now, since I did mention The Purge, we can talk about scare zones because Triplets of Terror was the last house. There's 10 houses, and now we're going to move into the scare zone. So Enter the Blumhouse is the next scare zone. And so just from this image, like take a look at the image. It says Enter the Blumhouse. So I've got The Purge, Happy Death Day, The Black Phone, and Megan. And I really hope they bring back Megan Horde because I kept missing them last year. They didn't have set times and they would just show up randomly, which was really cool. But I would always catch like the tail end and I never got any good photos or any good footage of them. They were all very talented and it was so cool, so much fun. The few like seconds that I got to see each time. But now they have an entire scare zone. So to get ready for the scare zone, make sure you watch The Purge, Happy Death Day, The Black Phone, and Megan so you get used to all of the characters that are going to be in that scare zone. Next up, we have Duality of Fear. I'm a Gemini. I saw this image and I fell in love with the image. I'm thinking like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I actually didn't pick any of those movies for this. I actually picked Sinister and Jacob's Ladder. And the reason why is because the tagline for this house is choose your path between sinister and surreal in the scare zone, where you'll face the dichotomy of supernatural and psychological horror. Sinister is like a true crime writer who uncovers a grisly home movie that reveals a sinister entity. I feel like that kind of goes in line there. And then Jacob's Ladder is mind-bending, psychological, surrealism type. So you have both styles, which I'm very curious to see how they'll do the scare zone. I'm excited for that one because you get to choose a different path to walk through, and each path I assume will be decorated differently. Next up, we have Demon Queens for a scare zone. And okay, we have one female-led house with the Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodline, and now we have a female-led scare zone because this scare zone is all about 4 merciless queens and a hellscape. So, of course, I thought of Drag Me to Hell to watch and The Witch. And Drag Me to Hell is all about a young woman who's cursed by a vengeful old woman, and The Witch is, you can guess, about witchcraft. But I just think it's really cool that we have like not only a house that's female-led, but a scare zone that is also female-led. And I'm really excited to see what some of the costumes look like. If you look at the image, you can kind of see the silhouettes of the different demon queens here. And their headdresses look really neat from the silhouettes. So I hope those are depictions of what the costumes are going to look like. Then we have Swamp of the Undead. My initial gut reaction was to put Creature from the Black Lagoon in here. And you know what? Creature goes with the Universal Monsters theme typically. So I was like, let me choose a couple of different movies that I normally wouldn't watch. I've seen Creature movies a bunch of times, but I chose The Beyond and The Skeleton Key. And The Beyond is in Louisiana. So you've got that eerie Southern vibe. And then The Skeleton Key is also Southern Gothic. And I think between the two of these movies, you'll really get the feeling of being in like a zombie-infested Louisiana bog. So that's what I'll be watching to get in the mood for that scare zone. Now this one, just like a lot of people I heard are excited for Goblin's Feast, there's a lot of people really excited for Torture Fair. It sounds pretty cool. The first thing that came to mind when I saw Torture Fair was, it's just a flesh wound. So I was like, okay, I cannot include Monty Python in this. I mean, everybody knows that quote, and they're one of the things that I really love about Halloween Horror Nights is, yes, it's scary, but a lot of times it's also really funny, and the mix of comedy and horror is abundant throughout the park. And Torture Fair seems like it could totally go that route. The tagline for this one is Brave, a medieval torture-themed Renaissance fair where the grim and gruesome past comes to life in horrifying detail. So some movies that I thought would be good: The Pit and the Pendulum, Season of the Witch, and The Princess Bride. I literally thought of The Pit of Despair from The Princess Bride. And I mean, this one is going to be fun. We all love a good Renaissance fair, but what if that Renaissance fair just went wrong, you know? So that brings us to our live shows, and we have one show this year, Nightmare Fuel Nocturnal Circus. And this brings us to the end of our movie watching list. So I put Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, and The Greatest Showman because both of these movies are about showmanship, performances. At the Cirque du Freak, the boy joins the circus, and there's, you know, the whole circus spectacle, but there's also like supernatural stuff going on. Greatest Showman is, it's got Hugh Jackman in it, so of course. But I thought those two would be really fun. Nocturnal Circus is supposed to be a fiery blend of pyrotechnics and aerial stunts. And if you've seen Nightmare Fuel before, it's just amazing. The cast is incredible. They're all very, very talented. And I highly recommend you follow the Fuel Girls on Instagram because they go into like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. You get to see their training, and they're really cool people. So definitely go check them out if you haven't already. Woo! Woo! Okay, we made it. You can download the full list on my blog. There's a link where I've made like a PDF and a doc file that you can download. And you can also follow along for more Halloween Horror Nights adventures. I know this one has not taken place at Halloween Horror Nights. We will get there soon, 21 more days. But I just thought this would be a fun kind of get to know you, get to see a little bit how my brain works too. And until next time, happy haunting, and may your nightmares be merry and terrifying.